everyone. Welcome to All Hands on Deck, the podcast built for we the people. Opportunities here to bring your grassroots and authentic groups along to the podcast and explain to the world what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're at, what help do you need? Or are you someone working within the movement to support others? Are you here to help provide ways forward for other people? Because if you are, then get in contact and we'll provide a platform for you. So today I'm joined by Robito Chatwin. From what was until today, COVID positive news. We're now moving over. I love the new name, Conscious People's Network. And Robito, who is a hypnotherapist, very kindly offering support and sessions to people within the Truth and Freedom movement and those who are vaccine injured. So I'm delighted to introduce Robito today. He's going to come along and tell us a little bit about what he's doing, what Conscious People's Movement's all about. And we're going to talk a little bit about waking up and what that looks like and maybe how we can help other people. So hello, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Delight to have you, my friend. Right, can you tell me first just a little bit about this name change and maybe why you've chosen to change the name?
Yeah, so I started COVID Positive News in January last year, and it was basically, there was an article published by The Pulse, and it was about how Japan had decided that they weren't going to discriminate between whether people wanted to have a vaccine or not. And I just thought, that's just such good news when everybody is just kind of being bombarded with doom and gloom. And I shared it with a few friends and realized that it wasn't good news for everybody. Those people that were pro-vaccine thought that it's very, it's an inappropriate article or whatever. And then, anyway, so then I decided, I actually asked a friend whether he thought it'd be good for me to just create a channel on Telegram called COVID Positive News and just start posting some of the positive news. And he said yes. My girlfriend said yes, go for it. And that's how it started. And I already had I teach critical thinking every summer at a UK uni. And I already have looked into the science behind positive psychology, and also constructive journalism and solutions-focused journalism. So the benefits of focusing on the glass half full. So I took that as the idea, and I just kept posting positive posts about what was going on over the last kind of, well, now it's like 2 years, but just over 2 years. But also I was putting into the posts like what the benefits are of focusing on the solutions and focusing on the positive. And I had loads of positive feedback, lots of people writing back saying that it was really helping them in these times, that they could breathe again was a kind of a common comment. And then I had people contacting me and saying, because I was doing some like meditation and hypnosis sessions through the channel as well. And then people were contacting me and saying, oh, well, I can do this, and I do this, and I do this. So then we ended up creating a kind of a, called the CPN Mentors. It was just a network of people offering sessions, and we still do that today. There's free daily sessions every day on the channel.
Amazing.
And then we started working as a team. So then it was like, okay, what do we want to do with the channel? And then I just literally almost burnt out really at the end of last year, because I was just doing, I was basically running the main part of the channel myself. And then around the same time, kind of COVID kind of ended for now. And all the restrictions started to ease away for most of the countries. And so it kind of fell at a point where I was exhausted anyway. So it gave me time to have a bit of a break. Anyway, and then we talked about it and we were thinking on a name, and we decided on the Conscious People's Network. And the idea, we also said right from the beginning, we're all mentors, we've all got something to offer. We're all the heroes in this story. We're all the ones that we're waiting for. Yeah. And so I had the idea that I wanted to start doing a podcast myself. So I've just started interviewing people myself. And the idea was that everybody that is interviewed, then I can just explain basically just the footer and how to do the title, and then the content of every post people can share into the channel whatever they want to share, and then it becomes the Conscious People's Network. So then it's just everybody sharing into the channel what they're doing, and it's really open to everyone. And the only reason that I kind of decided, and it might change, but the only reason that I decided that I would interview them first is just so that I can just check that, you know, we're on the same wavelength, and that we see things similarly, which is that, as we've talked about before, no hierarchy, and we're all in this together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, fantastic. And where can people find this? This is on Telegram, am I right?
Yeah, so it's a Telegram channel, and we're keeping it at COVID Positive News for now, because COVID Positive News has become quite well known. And so basically, if someone clicks at COVID Positive News, it will lead them to the Conscious People's Network. So it fits quite nicely, really, because COVID Positive News is the Conscious People's Network. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, just before we go on to kind of looking again at people waking up and what solutions are there, what role can we play, and so forth, because this has become, I think, an integral part of what 2023 looks like personally, but we can go into that in a minute. What I just want to do is, I know until recently, I had some preconceived ideas about what hypnotherapy was, how that worked, you know, a little bit anxious about it, to be honest, because I'd heard, you know, it is a way of controlling people and so forth. Now, and since then, I've become enlightened and I understand the massive benefits that are involved with that. But you, as a hypnotherapist, do you want to just give a brief overview for those that may carry around preconceived ideas about what hypnotherapy is about? Because I know you've got so much to offer, and I want people to understand what it is you're looking to offer, what it is you do, and how they might benefit from it, so we can start shifting any mindsets where there is a bit of uncertainty or concern.
Yeah, sure. So, well, so the first thing is hypnotherapy is kind of a deep meditation, really. It's basically focusing on the present. So I always talk about it as brainwave states. And not only do I talk about it as brainwave states, there's studies out there also that say that the hypnagogic state falls into the theta brainwave state. So you've got beta is the thinking mind. That's where we normally are. That's the active thinking brainwave state. And then it makes sense that the more that we relax, the more that the brain activity slows down. So a slower brainwave movement is alpha. And alpha is when we're playing a musical instrument, when we're reading, when we're swimming, when we're meditating, when we have to focus on the present moment to do an activity, then we go into the alpha. And the reason that meditation is so beneficial, or any type of focusing on the present moment, is actually really interesting in and of itself, because there's a part of the brain called the default mode network, which lights up when we're going into the future or going into the past. And usually, because of negativity bias, we worry about the future or we regret the past. Some people say that that's actually a kind of a biological instinct from survival, when we were in the past, you know, looking for food and things like this to survive. But actually there's tribes out there that don't have any language for the past or the future. And there's one tribe, I always forget the name, called the Prahaha, I'm not sure, tribe. Anyway, they're supposed to be the happiest tribe in the world, and they stay very much in the present. So it's also arguable that it's not a natural state, and we're programmed to go into the negative. But anyway, when we focus on the present, the default mode network shuts down because we're not activating it. And then as a consequence, it reduces anxiety, it reduces depression, it reduces. So it's very simple to explain that. And then the hypnagogic state is just the next one down. So beta, alpha, theta, and delta is sleep. And theta is more relaxed. So you get really close to the sleep state, which means you start to get a more direct connection to your subconscious. And then you still need to focus. So to go into the present, to go into the present, you need to focus. So in hypnotherapy, you focus on the hypnotherapist, on the voice. And then the hypnosis part is the relaxing or letting go or surrendering or trusting. And the more that somebody can relax, surrender, or trust and let go, the more that you can sink into this state. And that's all it is. So when people have a problem with meditation or hypnosis, you know, it's like, is there really any demons involved if you're looking at a tree and watching the branches move, you know, or playing a musical instrument? It's just focus on the present, and then we get connected to the subconscious.
I've got to admit, I had some preconceived ideas, and it was actually a huge mistake on my part, and I almost feel like I had spoken to you and knew you before, because what I've gained now from understanding and going through the process a bit more is the huge relaxation was such a shock. I thought I would not know what I was saying, or not necessarily know what was being said to me, or understand how I was responding. Not at all, totally far from it. But I was able to get to a place that I don't think I'd easily have ever got to on my own. And it was just being guided there. So I was the one in control. I was the one doing whatever I had to do, but I was just being guided and supported. So I wasn't alone. And there was something very comforting about it as well, actually. But yeah, I would encourage anybody to look into it and consider it. And maybe if they're interested, contact you, Robito, and have a chat with you, because it isn't anything like we've been told on the TV or you know, maybe read in magazines and so forth. And actually, I think it's going to have a massive place in moving forward, how we deal potentially with trauma or stress or things like that we see here now. And I think we'll probably, for a little while, get a little bit worse maybe, and we're going to need to have, again, all hands on deck to help deal with that. And I think your way is incredible. In terms of people waking up, there's obviously phases to the waking up. I mean, I wrote something a number of years ago when I knew there was going to be this massive awakening, and the way I had looked at it was like the stages of grief. You know, you go through the, you know, denial, you know, you go through these stages similar to grief. But how do you see it, and how do we recognize it, and then more importantly, how do we navigate supporting people as they wake up? Have you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, so if I can just jump to the second part first, which is, you know, how do we navigate support in this? Because I also would like to mention something that you mentioned about the hypnosis and the, you know, like it's manipulation, mind control. So a big part of dealing with this is, we can go in many different directions, but basically we've been in an abusive relationship. That's the way I see it. We've been in an abusive relationship with the system. And when you look at an abusive relationship, there's always periods of calm and chaos. And it's actually that period of calm where we know that the chaos is coming again, where we go into the fear, we go into the worry, and we go into the despair. And so for us to get out of an abusive relationship, the first thing we need to do is acknowledge that we're in one. And then after we've acknowledged that we're in one, then we need to process it. And one way to process it is to talk about it. Another part of it that's really important is to find allies or a community, people that you can talk to about it. And the final part is to set your own boundaries and then walk away. So, you know, as with what the PHA is doing and the PFFA, we need to walk away from the abusers and stop giving them our attention anymore. They're just not relevant to us anymore. Just like in an abusive relationship one-on-one, the only solution is to walk away. You can't convince the abuser to be nicer or hope that things will change. You have to walk away and create a better reality for yourself. So how that links in with hypnosis is that the first part of hypnosis, the reason that it's so powerful for trauma and PTSD and things like that, is because it's releasing that stress. It's releasing that internal stress that we've collected and stored over time because we've been in this traumatic relationship, this traumatic extended period of time. And so when we release that stress, and then the other part of it is then going into specifics about, we can get inner guidance, we can find the key to something that needs to kind of change or switch, so that we can, everything else falls into place. But the initial thing is just, let's get rid of that stress. And that release of stress helps people with so many different things that it's really difficult for, I mean, that's why I think people also perhaps don't understand, or why hypnosis isn't so widely thought of like meditation or Reiki and things like that, because it can help with so many different things. Because when you release that stress, any psychosomatic condition, anything that is stress related, can disappear. So the list of the different things that can be helped through clearing out stress is massive. And that's a big part, I think, of dealing with this, is finding a way. It doesn't have to be hypnosis, but finding your way to get rid of that stress, to shake out that stress, clear it out. My girlfriend does kind of a dance therapy. It's called intuitive dance. And basically it's, she creates a playlist that takes you on a journey of different rhythms. And the idea, a bit like ecstatic dance, is you dance, but you don't pay attention to what anybody else is thinking about you. It's about just you, but you're shaking out all your internally stored stress, just like animals do once they've been chased by a lion. So there's lots of different ways to do it. But I would say finding a way to get rid of the stress, and then finding a community, finding people that understand you. Don't try to do it on your own. It's not easy. And in fact, it's almost impossible to do it on your own. You need some support coming from somewhere.
This has been one of the beautiful things in terms of the feedback we've had from people involved with PHA. It's almost like a bitty bonus to what we're trying to do, because obviously the first and foremost was, let's get some health hubs out there, let's get some networking done in terms of the health support that we can get out there. But actually a byproduct of that is groups of people coming together in their community who may not have been in any contact before, didn't even know each other, nothing whatsoever, and they've come together excuse me, with a mutual goal of creating a hub for their community. But what's happened is they've created their own support network for each other. They're like-minded people coming together and supporting each other through the last year or so, whereby things have been difficult for them. They have been hard. They felt alone in their community. They haven't known anyone I could talk to. Everyone's going to think I'm bonkers, and so on and so forth. And actually, just coming together and creating that support where people naturally talk together, they naturally come up with solutions, they can bounce things off each other, they have an understanding of what each other has been through or is going through. And it's been a beautiful byproduct of PHA, is the support groups that have naturally come together and support each other through this. And any community-based group within the freedom movement, I feel, that comes together, you're naturally becoming a support group for each other. You're naturally creating that. And I think it's essential moving forward. And not only that, I think that we've forcibly and intentionally and psychologically been pushed apart by the powers that be, because they don't want us coming together. They don't want us talking. They don't want us supporting each other. They want us looking at them and looking at our screens and just doing what we're told. And actually, it's almost an act of rebellion to come together with your neighbors and support each other. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, we've even had a few people message and say, I think this has saved my life, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I just felt so alone. I didn't feel empowered. I didn't know what action to take. I was so frustrated and I wanted to do something and I didn't know what to do. And through PHA and other groups, there's other amazing groups out there, not just PHA, but I know obviously personal experience that people have come and they've said, I think it saved my life, because God knows what I'd have done. And so I think it's absolutely essential. And also in terms of dealing with stress, there's some amazing practitioners out there like yourself, Robito, who can have really genuinely helped with this, really help people go through this process safely and effectively. But just by being with other people and sharing your thoughts and the load of the weight you feel you're carrying, you're automatically going to start, I would imagine, releasing some of that stress and starting to let it go and process it and let it go, which is so key right now. Because I don't know if you agree with the analogy, but I think if we are feeling good and if we have helped ourselves and we've done some of the work, we are so much more effective in helping other people as well, rather than trying to deal with ourselves only half full, when we can actually be more effective if we've dealt with our own trauma and our own stress and so forth. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. What is it? Before you put the oxygen mask, yeah, that's what they go to, isn't it? In the air, in an airplane, if there's an accident, if you're going down, make sure you put it on yourself before you try to help anyone else. I mean, my motto is we free ourselves within. And I really believe that you talked about the phases. So I'd be interested to know what you see those phases are. But and it's interesting because when you speak to different people, and like within the CPN mentors, we've talked about these phases, and we always come up with 4. And I think even in the shamanic traditions, it's 4. There seems to be kind of universally 4. So I don't know if you've got more than 4 or less than 4, but my 4 are that, first of all, you realize that the world is not the way that you thought it was. So you have to go through that cognitive dissonance and accept the reality as it is. The second one is then the doom and gloom phase, where we start putting going down the rabbit holes, joining the dots together, finding out that, that this has been going on for a really long time. And our conclusion is we're all screwed. Like, there's absolutely no chance that we can do anything about this. And it's really interesting because I was talking to someone the other day about I've just written it down. It was the Karpman drama triangle, because I just know it as the drama triangle, but it's actually Karpman who started this. It's the persecutor, the rescuer, and the victim. Right. And so we can go into this, and this means that we've still got trauma that we need to deal with. And I find it fascinating because the victim would be, we're all doomed. There's nothing we can do about it anyway. The rescuer or the savior would be suffering for all the children, for example, that are being vaccinated, or wanting to save the world, wanting to help absolutely everybody at the detriment of our own health. And then the other one is the persecutor, is wanting revenge, wanting all these people hanged, things like this. And so this is part of many different therapy modalities. And the thing is that there's nothing wrong with having any of those, but the end goal should be, for example, if you're a savior, the end goal is not for you to save those people, but it's for you to enable them or empower them to be able to save themselves. Yeah. And so basically, when we get rid of that, when we do the inner work, when we look at the trauma and we release the stress and we get ourselves into a place of balance, then we can go into these situations like creating health hubs or food and farming hubs, where we want to get directly involved with the farmers and things like this. We can do all of this from a place which is, like a balanced state. Yeah, I mean, there's other words for it, but it's kind of this, you're in this balanced state where basically what it is that you are not reacting to, your identity is not being challenged. You're not reacting to different people that disagree with you. And so you can stay in this space where you can, when you deal with when you do the trauma work or release the stress, then it's also easier for us to communicate with other people, to discuss, to debate, to share different ideas, to consider that we might be wrong, to have a more of a humbling position, where we realize, yeah, we know what's going on, but there's still loads more for us all to find out. That human consciousness conscious evolution never stops. So we're always learning and we're always growing. So I think that's where doing the trauma work and doing the work probably simultaneously, you want to be getting involved with organizations like the PHA and the PFFA, getting involved in some sort of community, so you've got that support. But doing the inner work is so important, so important.
I mean, I've been doing the inner work for years, and only to such a degree because I've been doing it on my own. But then until COVID hit, I felt very alone in the world, because quite frankly, if I talk to anyone about what I was noticing, they think I would start raving bonkers. So, but what is beautiful is there's now people like you and thousands of other practitioners out there who are awake and aware. And if you need to find them, go to the PHA practitioner directory, but are awake and aware, where you're not going to be judged. You're not going to be, people think, you can see people thinking she's completely lost it. None of that is going to be taking place. And actually, this is so important, a part of our healing as a nation, as a people, as a world, is that we have practitioners and people like yourself, Robito, whereby we can reach out and we know we're not going to be judged for what our beliefs are, and people will be able to understand or empathize with our position. And I think it's exciting, and everyone should feel really positive about this, because trust me, some years ago, when you're in the position where you're awake and there's barely anyone else in the world that you're aware of around you who are also awake, it's very, very difficult, and you have to almost feel like you're doing this kind of inner work on your own. Whereas now we're in the delightful, wonderful position where there are absolutely thousands of us out there who are awake and aware to what this reality looks like. And so you can go out there and work on that with support now, with practitioners who know what they're doing, and embrace that, do that, because actually so much that we're probably hanging on to from before COVID even, but if we're entering into this new world, this beautiful world, we don't really want to take too much baggage with us, do we? We want to kind of leave that behind. And I think what we do with us on ourselves, that's our own baggage, that's our own things we need to decide what we offload and leave behind, as we enter into, if you like, this new world, whereby hopefully everyone's going to feel a lot lighter and a lot less stressed, and life's going to be a lot fairer and kinder on us. But if you're with someone and they're waking up, and say they're not in a position right now to quickly access a practitioner or somebody else, and they're in that denial phase, is there anything that you can recommend people do? Say it's a loved one, bar encouraging them to come to somebody like yourself who knows how to help with this. Is there anything we can do to make this process easier for others, or do they have to go through this process to its full extent to come through the other side? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can just go by my own experience, really. So okay. I did loads of inner work also. For me, the big what I call the awakening, because there's many, and and we can also argue about the word awakening, but that realization that things are not quite the way that we thought they were was 9/11 for me. Right. And I watched two planes go into two towers and bring down 3 at free fall speed, and I just thought that's not right. It's not possible. It's like literally not possible. No. And then we were looking for bin Laden in the caves of Afghanistan. Apparently he got this like James Bond network in the caves, with Wi-Fi and everything. And I'm currently living in a house here that's 800 years old, and it's got big concrete walls, and the Wi-Fi won't go through the walls. So I don't know how they managed to do it well, they didn't, because they didn't find it. Yeah. But anyway, it just didn't make sense. Also, it's been a while for me, like, around 2001. And so I went down the rabbit holes and went through this whole process then. And but still community, because when you do the inner work, you still need to go and, you find groups that are doing different, for me, meditation. So I went and found groups that were doing meditation, and
amazing, yeah,
found people there. But if you're dealing with somebody who is still, are we talking about now people that have not gone through that cognitive dissonance yet?
Yeah, so they're just going, hang on a minute, something ain't right, and I can't put no, the government wouldn't do that. With that real initial stage when something pennies just starting to drop, but no, I can't see, the government wouldn't do that. They're still in that denial kind of phase, but they can see something ain't right.
Well, the first thing that's important when we talked about this before, like when you or me, when we get out of an abusive relationship, is to speak our truth. Yeah. And Matthias Desmet says the same thing, when he talks about mass formation or mass hypnosis, which is another one that we could talk about why that's not hypnosis. But he says also, the most important thing is to speak your truth. Yeah. So we do need to speak our truth. But from my experience, it's being an example. So like being an example of somebody who's not afraid to not get the jab, be an example of somebody who's not afraid of a virus. You can only be an example. It doesn't work, as I'm sure you've experienced as well at some point, when you start throwing them all the information and the studies and all of that. Never works. No, it just turns people off.
There's a huge temptation to, but don't do it. People can't cope.
Yeah, it just switch off. They're not interested. Yeah. It's like if you've got someone who's super sporty come over to you and tell you that you need to do more exercise, the only thing you're going to do is go and have a beer. It's like you don't want to hear it if it's not what you're believing at that moment. But I had a really, really interesting, it was the first exchange in quite a long time, because I don't go around trying to kind of wake people up anymore. But if somebody asks me, I'll tell them exactly what I think. And there was a doctor that I was talking to here the other day, and she was saying, oh, I met some of those crazy people that think that our freedoms are being taken away. And they must feel really silly now because, COVID's over and all that worrying that they did for nothing. And I just said to her, well, I actually don't agree with you. And I think that they're right. And I think our freedoms are being taken away. And what I said to her was like, I can share with you some of the information that I've got if you're interested. And then you can either look at that information and decide that there's a flaw in it, in the argument, or you can look at it and you can accept it as objective truth. But if you agree with me after I show you this information, it is going to change your worldview and you're not going to see things the same way anymore. And so going back to, when you've done the inner work, when your identity is not being challenged, you can talk to somebody in a very calm way. You don't react, you don't get angry. And then she said to me, I'm not interested because it must be a very sad and depressing place to believe that you can't trust the institutions. And what that said to me was how wonderful are human beings? Because what that made me think was, she's such a kind, loving, trusting person that she can't believe that the institutions or people at the top of this, as I call it, the archaic pyramid, would be so cruel as to deliberately do things to harm others. So it's actually her goodness which is stopping her from.
I agree. I've asked myself this a few times, because you do end up having, philosophical conversations in your head sometimes, I think. And I think there's a real innocence to people. I don't know if innocence is the right word. I want to say purity. There's something very white, clean in that respect, like a white sheet of those people who just can't believe there's that level of evil, because they're probably so good in themselves, or try to be so good in themselves, that for them to accept that there are people out there who can be so awful is too much, and they don't want to see it. They don't want to look at it because they don't want to believe that there can be that nastiness from certain people in this world. And in my mind, it almost makes them very, very, I don't want to say young and naive, because that sounds patronizing, but certainly there's a purity, a childlike purity, if you like, to that line of thinking, which I hope makes me more empathetic to their position right now, which I'm not going to lie, I've spent many a year saying such things as like, bloody idiots, seriously, wake up, are you stupid, in my head. And actually that serves no one particularly well. We don't get any resolution from that whatsoever. Whereas it's much easier to empathize for me if I look at that goodness within them and the fact that they just don't want to see the evil because they can't believe there's that level of evil because their mind just doesn't want to go there. Yeah, it's something I've thought about quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that that's why everybody doesn't see the wood through the trees. Is that right?
Yeah, wood for the trees, that's it. Yeah.
That's the one. I think other people perhaps know, you know, well, other people, it's more of a fear than I just can't believe it because people are, you know, people are good-hearted. But this particular doctor that I know, she's such a nice, kind, sharing, lovely person.
Yeah.
So yeah, so but the thing that I always tell myself is that, because of course, like when you go through these phases, those, oh yeah, so I don't know if I finished the stages. So the first one is the cognitive dissonance. Second is you go down the rabbit holes, we're all screwed. And then I say, you know, then we reclaim our health, we take back our power. So that's the inner work, sorting ourselves out. And then the final stage is, how can I contribute? And probably it's not one after the other. There's a kind of they overlap.
Blending.
But
Yeah.
but what I was going to say was, yeah, is that I'm trying to find what I was going to say now.
Sorry, I tend to just jump in with things sometimes and distract. I get a bit excited.
No, I've lost it. It'll come back to me.
No, it'll come back, you know. Yeah, for me it was always denial, and then there was a level of acceptance that, okay, something isn't right, I'll accept that. Then it was either a fear or sadness based on the reality of drawing on them through research, or like you say, the rabbit holes, whatever way it might be, that actually that's really a kick in the gut, that what I believed all those years, maybe that isn't how things are, and what I'm looking at is actually worse than I thought this world would be. So then comes that more of that acceptance, and then there's sometimes quite a level of anger and frustration and annoyance, and you know, you've got to deal with those emotions as well. But what I found is the best thing for me when I was at that stage was to funnel that energy, that anger, that frustration, because there was so little I could do at the time. There was so little I could do to make a practical difference, as far as I could see it, to the elements that were the problem. What I could do was funnel all my energy into finding solutions. And that's where I feel that the likes of having things like PHA, PFFA, and the other organizations out there, those grassroots authentic groups that are coming up with solutions, that is where you can actually funnel your energy and thus make a difference. And that's what we all want to do, is be empowered to make a difference for good, I think, isn't it? And so whilst that process goes through, I'd like to think that the majority of us will get to that place where, rather than sitting in our anger and frustration, which we can do, A, address what is that achieving, but B, actually, where can I best serve others? Where can I best serve others? Because ultimately we serve ourselves when we serve others. Where can I funnel my energy into creating something that those bad guys aren't going to like me doing? So in no way or shape or form am I, you know, helping them out, but I'm actually helping the people out in my community. I'm helping those people around me. I'm helping those find a way forward and create the new. And that's why I pummel so much energy into people getting involved at that community level, very much like you're saying, is because we'll heal ourselves as well as help heal other people around us.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's actually really interesting that you say that, because I normally talk about the third stage being kind of reclaiming health. But probably the whole process is a reclaiming health process, right from the beginning, right from that cognitive dissonance. And actually what happened to me was the same thing. Was I did the research, I saw that, you know, I went down the rabbit holes, as I say it, came to the conclusion that, you know, that there's nothing we can, you know, we're probably screwed at this point, and went through the anger, used the terminology like sheeple and, you know, all the derogatory terms towards people. Yeah. and actually didn't like humans very much. I actually went through a phase where I thought, I love planet Earth, I love the animals, I love the plants, but people are just, you know, they're just a problem. And then, funnily enough, I was on I used to be I lived a nomadic lifestyle before COVID, and COVID really changed my lifestyle there. But I was on a beach in Sri Lanka, helping this woman set up. It was beautiful, yeah, setting up an Airbnb, helping. And this guy turned up with his wife and 2 children, and I was very depressed at this point. And he said, I've just spent the last 5 years focusing on all the solutions. And I sat down with him, and he went through all the different organizations that he was aware of at that time that were focusing on the solutions. And what he made me realize is that that's also a reality. All of those organizations, all of those thousands and thousands of people that were busy trying to, you know, maybe potentially millions that were busy trying to create a better world, were also reality. And if we focus on that, we feel good. And if we focus on the problem, we feel bad. And then going back to the abusive relationship, if we focus on that, on the solutions, then we're actually moving in the right direction. And if we look the other way, then we're just, as you said, in that grief and that anger. So actually, when I say reclaiming my health, I might change that third one now.
Yeah. Okay. I think even when we've come through this, I don't think it ever stops, though. I don't know. I've been on this journey a long time. My healing journey will never stop. I mean, it's interesting what I said about disliking people. I went through a phase, couldn't stand people at all. And it took me a long time because I was speaking to some, if you like, some old hat conspiracy theorists a number of years ago. There's only a small group of us. You know, the internet wasn't what it is now and so forth. So there was only a small group of us. And each and every one of us confessed that we'd actually gone full circle. So we'd start here and, you know, the evil guys are bad. They want to kill us all, you know, awful. And you go through your process and you go through your process and you're going through and through and through and through. And at one point or another, you'd go through to come to a point where you're like, maybe the bad guys haven't got it wrong. Maybe the bad guys haven't got it wrong, because quite frankly, humanity's stupid, blah, 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 blah. And you go off on one and all the rest of it. And I had to reconcile this with myself, because I didn't want to be one of those people that thought that. I just did not. And what I got my head around was actually, I don't hate people. I don't dislike people. What I hate are societal structures that we are living within, that by working with it, we are supporting. And that's not the people, that's the system. And I think it's important to remember that whilst we are angry with people for not waking up, or we're angry with people for feeling a certain way or aligning with a certain political party that we just can't understand, actually, it isn't the individuals. It is the structure of society that has been laid out for us by those ones that they consider themselves the top of the tree, by those people. Decades, if not centuries, has been leading up to this, and it's been done by design, it's been done by control mechanisms. But what is beautiful is that people are waking up to it, and we're so passionate about building the new and about creating a new way forward, taking down those old structures. And those people that currently are still in belief of what they're seeing, they won't be for much longer. They won't. It's going to change, and they're going to all become aware of things going on that they didn't see before. And actually, it's really important that we're there to support them, because we're all on the same team ultimately. When I speak to people who've taken the jab or done it, they've done it from a place of love. They've done it in majority have done it from a place of love, and they didn't want to hurt others. And I think it's important for us to remember that actually most decent people are decent people. You know, they're decent human beings. And now is an exciting opportunity for us all to come together over the next couple of years, ignore those hideous power structures. Well, they're crumbling anyway. They're going to continue to crumble and so forth, and funnel our energy into each other and building the new. And it isn't the people, it's society. It's what's been created. Would you agree with that? Or would you have another angle on that?
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's, I mean, few things. What the thing I was trying to remember before is we have to remember. I know I'm good at connecting the past to the present, actually. I think, is we have to remember that many people woke up before us, and many people are going to wake up after us. And so when we were at the point when we thought that we hadn't realized, we hadn't had our awakening moment yet, whenever that was, there was loads of people before us that thought that you were a sheep. So, you know, I think we have to just got to believe, I believe it, that it's a process. Everybody's on their own journey, and everybody is, you know, will wake up at the point when they need to, or when it's the right moment for them. And for some people, it's going to be more difficult, because obviously right now, the old system is collapsing, crumbling now. And that's why they're ramping it up. That's why they're not hiding it anymore, because it's a last ditch effort, because they can see how powerful we are, and the potential that we have to take away the power from them. So they're ramping it all up now. Yeah. And that's going to mean that it's going to be difficult for those people that haven't realized what's going on yet, because at some point, there's going to be loads of people all at once that just suddenly snap out of it, because it's going to get bad enough. But the thing
bombs are going to drop, as it were.
Yeah, but as it gets, you know, yin and yang, polar opposites, as it gets worse, it's also getting better. All of the amazing things that are happening are also ramping up at the same time. And as far as the system goes, I've said for a long time, the problem is the system. So when we focus on climate change, or even if we focus on COVID, or if we focus on digital, central bank digital currencies or whatever, it's actually diverting our attention from the main problem, which is the system itself, which is there to manipulate and control us. And we need to just walk away from that and build something else. And the last thing I wanted to say, I'm going to lose it now, about the system. Yeah, because
I'm glad it's not just me, my love. I do it all the time. I'm one of those that walks into a room and I'm literally like, yep, came in here for something, can't remember what it is. So I do it myself. Whilst you're thinking, I think it's interesting you said that, because I actually tweeted about this weekend. I said, I think that this year is the year of the awakening. It's also the year of revelations, in terms of the news that will come out, the information, the truth that will come out. And it's really important that we are the safety nets that help to catch the people, because there's going to be large numbers of them. It's going to be happening. You think you've had it bad, they are going to be waking up, boom, 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 in your face. It's going to be coming at them left, right, and center. And we've actually got to be really empathetic to that, because it's going to be a lot. And it's really important that we are there as the safety nets, because what we don't want to risk is a sort of societal collapse situation. So actually, whilst that might serve their needs in terms of having that chaos, it doesn't really serve us well. And not only are we going to be doing those that wake up a favor, we're going to be doing ourselves and society around us a favor by helping to catch them if they look like they're going to fall, helping them guide through it, you know, talking to them, showing ways they can use their energy to create something beautiful and something wonderful and positive. Because if they wake up and they've just been watching the BBC and doing, you know, listening to their MP and so on and so forth, and believing everything they've been told, they're going to nearly crash potentially, because it's going to be a lot. And what they need to be able to see is, it's not just the NHS crumbling. Oh my gosh, we haven't even got this, we haven't got that, we haven't got that. Now, actually, look what we've been building. Look, it's awesome. There's new stuff here and it's wonderful. And the people have created this, and you are safe and you are held and you are cared for, and we're in this together. And getting those messages out, rather than one of, I told you so. However tempting that might be, actually it doesn't really serve us as a unit, if you like, as a community. I think the messaging has to be one like, yeah, all right, they got us all at one point or another. Now check out what we're doing, it's awesome, do you want to come along and get involved? You know, take that kind of road, if you like, then rather take the higher road, if you like, rather than the one where we do feel like sometimes going, told you, because actually overall that's not going to serve anyone well.
No, and those people that are thinking about, you know, what can I do? Like, what can little me do? What can I possibly do? Well, you know, and I said before, we're all mentors, you know, we've all got something to offer. Well, what we can all do is that we can help people through this transition.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can all do. We can be there for people as they go through this process, remembering that we went through it once as well. And it fits in very nicely with what I didn't say because I forgot.
Go for it.
Yeah, which is also the amount of manipulation that is required from those people, from the system, and those people that are really at the top that are managing it all. Just the sheer amount of it actually shows just how powerful we are, because
Yes.
It's so incredibly sophisticated and going very quickly into mass formation, which is also called mass hypnosis. The reason that mass hypnosis doesn't do hypnotherapy many favors is that mass hypnosis is actually, first of all, and I wrote this down because I wanted to squeeze this one in. First of all, you need to isolate people. So they need to feel isolated. The second one is that they need to feel that they don't have any meaning. So they need to feel meaningless. Then they need to have a constant, something to focus on. So this is where the hypnosis comes from. Some anxiety or threat that comes from a constant fear, a constant threat to focus on. And then as a consequence, you need to start feeling frustrated and angry. And then the final thing is that the authorities give you the solution. So just the amount of manipulation that's required to get us to behave the way that they want, to do things that we wouldn't ordinarily do, to buy things that we wouldn't ordinarily buy, is massive. And I think that just goes to show, that we're not easily controlled, actually.
They've had to work very hard at it and take years and years and years to get to this point, to mold us in this way, and they've come at it from all angles. And the biggest reason is, and this is the joy of it, they ultimately fear us realizing. They ultimately fear us becoming aware of the situation. And the biggest threat, I think, to them isn't necessarily, and I could be wrong here, I haven't given this much thought, but this is a knee-jerk thought. It isn't that we will stand up and become violent or aggressive or anything else. I think the biggest fear is the fact that we make them null and void. We create a world where they're not needed. We don't need to listen to them. We can completely ignore everything you're saying, and it has zero impact on our lives. And I mean, I do think that they will be out of the picture before we're fully at that stage. But hey, let's head in that direction, because they can't do anything with that. They can't do anything with that. And we're taking away their power by literally ignoring them. It's like bullies. They'll keep prodding you for a bit, they'll keep going for a bit, but ultimately, if you just ignore them and walk away from them and let them have no impact on your life, they are powerless. They're utterly powerless. So actually, it's far wiser for us to funnel our energy into building the new and having a good time doing that and ignoring what they're saying, because you're just eradicating the need for them. Their point becomes, a moot point, basically. But isn't it an exciting time to be alive, Robito? Isn't it just exciting and empowering? And there's so much that's coming and so much that's being done. And people like yourselves are providing incredible, I'm going to say services. That's not what I mean, though. The word service doesn't do it duty. It's an incredible offering that you guys can bring to help others through this and to support them on this journey of healing. And I personally, as Katherine McBean, can recommend getting in touch with Robito, and I'm sure there's very other fantastic, authentic people out there, healers out there, who can help you on your journey. Do go and check out the PHA directory if you are looking for somebody to support you. Someone like Robito can work remotely, which is fantastic. So you don't need to be in the same vicinity in order to get some support from Robito. But I would recommend go and look into it, because it's going back to that mask thing. Hey, we want to help others, and we've all got a role to play in helping others, but let's make sure we help ourselves and get ourselves in a really good place to start with. So Robito, is there anything else you'd like to bring up today before we end that you'd like to pass on? And I would say to people, do go and check out the Conscious People's Network, particularly if you need a little bit of a lift, because there's always, it's just positive, it's just fantastic information on there. But is there anything else you'd like to bring up today, my love?
Yeah, just like to, first of all, I'd like to say that we also have sessions we run sessions through Telegram. So it is also, well, it's on Zoom, but the sessions are advertised on the Conscious People's Network, as does the People's Health Alliance with your, is it Wednesday wellbeing sessions that you
Wellbeing
do?
Wednesdays and stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and actually I'm doing a presentation soon as well for the PHA.
Amazing.
So that's
Fantastic.
great. But yeah, so you can get online support from the other mentors through the Conscious People's Network as well.
Amazing.
And I just wanted to quickly say, first of all, about those people that we just need to walk away from, the ones that have tried to manipulate us all these years. I always take this analogy, if you were in a smaller community, say, I don't know, 30 people, and one person said, oh, I've got the idea, I'm going to be the king, and you're all going to work for me, and then you give me money, and then I'll live off that, then you'll say, all right, goodbye, not interested. So that's the solution. We're not interested. Go in the other direction. And you mentioned also, Katherine, about when those people all do go through that awakening process, or whatever we want to call it, and then they need to be held. And you said, well, look, we've got this other stuff going on. Come over here. That's also the solution that Dr. Matthias Desmet talks about with mass formation, and others also have talked about, is that we need to not hide our truth. We need community. But the other thing that we need to do is that we need to present a better alternative, so that these people when they, I don't know whether he's right or not, but he says about 40% of the population follow the crowd. So, and then he says about 30 kind of see what's going on, and 30% are kind of stuck in this, as he calls it, kind of, well, mass formation. I don't think he uses hypnosis, but anyway, so that 40%, where at the moment they're following the crowd, if he's right, in the system that we've got. If we present something which is better, and especially also once they realize what's going on, if we've got something there that's better, then they've got a place to go.
Yeah.
The final thing I'll probably just squeeze in, because we didn't get time to talk about it, is
gosh, sorry, it's flown by. I could talk to you for hours. We'll have to do
I know,
because
it's fantastic, because we're like just agreeing on and have such a similar mindset on so many things. But the science behind focusing on the glass half full, the science and focusing on the positive, there's so much of it. And sometimes when I was doing COVID positive news, people would say, yeah, but it's not rainbows and unicorns. We've got to also acknowledge all this bad stuff that's going on. So like I continually say, don't ignore the problems, but focus on the solutions. Because if you focus on the glass half full, and practice nurturing yourself, what is your knee-jerk reaction when you read some news? Can you find the positive in that news? Learning to develop this glass half full perspective, it has so many benefits. Also increases longevity, reduces heart attacks by 50%, according to one study, which is very relevant right now. And I'm not saying that, a glass half full perspective is going to fix all the world's problems, but it has massive positive effects for the body, for the mind, and also for us to be able to communicate and relate to each other as well.
I think it just makes day-to-day living more manageable and more fun. And I'm truly energized a lot of the time, and I'm generally a very positive person, but I'm also a human being. So, I have a negative moments. So don't get me wrong, I'll have my moments where I'm like, oh, so angry. Maybe I see an article or something that just infuriates me. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not all sweetness and light when those situations happen at all. But what I've learned to do is, okay, I see it, I address it, I accept it. Okay, it's there, but then I take myself off and do something positive, something that I enjoy, something that lifts and raises my vibration. And as a result, how I see that changes. The anger dissipates and I see it for what it is, which is probably pathetic and just, riled up bits of propaganda. But so I'm not there yet. So I just want people listening to think, well, I can't just suddenly, fine, actually take yourself away from the situation and do something positive, do something proactive, or do something is going to put a smile on your face, and how you'll see that will change. it'll flip. That's just for me personally, how I'm learning to manage those things, because I can sometimes get a little bit hurt up. I'm not going to lie about it. Passionate, I think, is what my friends say. But I'm learning that actually that doesn't serve me to stay in that state of mind, and I take myself off and I change my own state of mind by doing something positive, and flipping the switch on how I see it. But we're all growing, aren't we? We're all learning. It's all part of the journey.
No, it's a massive tool. It's a really, really good tool. I use it also in the hypnotherapy. It's about changing the perspective. So if you go away and you do something which raises your vibration, when you look back at that same thing afterwards, you're not looking at it from the perspective of anger and but of course I also get angry. It's not like I walk around happy about everything, but the the one that got me really angry was when Trudeau froze the bank accounts. That made me furious. But
I bet.
But the thing is that well, the work, and it would say with meditation, the work is you can see that anger, you can see that you're angry, but you don't get lost in it. When people get really angry, and when somebody kind of goes into a state of rage, for example, then often afterwards they talk about how it wasn't me. So you can get lost in that emotion, and then you're out of control. So it's learning a technique which works for you, so that when you go into those states, you can see that this is happening, and then you can take action, as you said, either to go and do something else so that it goes down again, you dilute it, or another technique would be to actually just face it and allow it to come up, but just don't go into it, just kind of observe it. That's the meditation side. And then it will just dissipate and disappear by itself. But
it's all fascinating, Robito. I've no doubt you and I are going to talk again in a few months' time as things change, because I think this year things are going to move very, very quickly. I think we're going to see things develop very quickly. I think, it'd be great for us to reconvene and see what changes has happened, and is there anything else we should be discussing in terms of how we look moving forward to help those as well that are going through their awakening. But thank you so much for your time today, Robito. Speaking to you is never dull. It's always so fascinating. And I would encourage people, go and have a look at Conscious People's Network. If you're looking for a bit of support and help, do reach out to Robito. I'm sure I'd be more than happy to connect and see if there's anything he can do to help you. And in the meantime, Robito, thank you so much for your time today, my love. This has been absolutely fascinating. Can't wait to see you on the PHA presentation. And please do come back in a few months' time, and let's see if anything's shifted.
Thank you so much. I'll just share robito.info. will take you to the hypnosis. You can also, it takes you to a link tree. So you've got like a bio. It will take you to the hypnosis, or to the Conscious People's Network, or to my Substack, where I'm publishing my podcast as well.
Brilliant. Send us the details of your Substack, because the rest of it we've got lined up to put in the notes, guys. So if you need to have a look in the notes, you're going to find all the links there, and we'll make sure that Robito's Substack is added to that.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And yes, we should also say that it is fantastic what's happening in the world right now. And, and as things get crazier, things are only going to get better as well.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I will speak to you soon, my friend. Take care and all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Bye-bye. Thank you.